So this is actually a transcript of a Fresh Air episode.
Yeah, we listened to a Fresh Air episode today.
And I just got to start by saying, Terry Gross is a fucking legend.
What a fresh air. What a breath of fresh air Terry Gross is.
She has been kicking ass for so long.
Does anybody do a better interview than Terry Gross?
No.
I don't think they do. I don't think there is. Maybe that guy like inside the actor studio guy, maybe.
Oh, yeah. What is that? Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever that dude's name is. He kind of looks like a monster. But
Acting.
That guy.
Right.
Does a great interview, but she does an amazing interview.
She's an
outstanding. She just lets people talk.
Yeah.
She just lets you talk. She gives you a question that you can absolutely crush, and she just lets you go.
And she just seems to like put people at ease.
Yeah, she
doesn't matter who she's got, except Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons and her didn't get along. It's a very famous interview.
Yeah.
Did you hear that interview?
I don't think I did. I know that he was like rude to her or whatever.
Oh, he was. It is. If you guys get a chance, actually Google Terry Gross and Gene Simmons interview. It is probably the most horrifically awkward thing you'll ever listen. He's so sexually crude with Terry Gross.
Really?
It's awful. And she is just not having it.
Really?
Yeah. It's genuinely appalling. He's an appalling human being. How the Republican Party came to embrace conspiracy theories and denialism. So this is an interview between Terry Gross and Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank. And it is a fascinating interview. It's based on his book, The Destructionists.
Yeah.
Just an outstanding, interesting interview that really like brings all of this back and lays it at the hands of the operatives who worked in the W administration.
And even further with Gingrich, right?
Yes,
so
I keep forgetting that.
It starts with Gingrich.
Thank you.
And what I love about this is during this interview, and it's 42 minutes long, it's worth your time, it's in the notes, take a look at it. But during this interview, there's so many times that he mentioned something that I did not know that was happening at the time that matches the dialogue of today to show you that the stuff that we're in right now, this very sort of diametrically opposed sides is not a new phenomenon. In fact, this type of thing has been going on for quite some time. And in fact, several of the things that you've heard in the past few years that you thought might have been created, like stuffing ballot boxes and dead people voting, was used by John Ashcroft during the Bush
v. Gore
election.
Yeah.
The absolute vilification of people through Gingrich and how that has changed the face of politics. All of this it's something that we knew, but like they really spend a great deal of time explaining in great detail on how every single major member of that party was just such a piece of shit, and they have fomented this for decades.
It is exactly true that you look at all of this MAGA bullshit and all this stop the steal, but like none of that is organic. All of it is strategic. All of that is strategic. None of that happened as a direct organic result of the times we find ourselves in. That is what the right would try to have you believe, but the very language itself refers, as you said, it refers back to another time. The Brooks Brothers riot, which is the stop counting the votes rioting that was intentionally organized by Roger Stone and Ashcroft in order to gain Florida and stop the count in Florida so that the recount couldn't take place. The recount, by the way, would have had Gore win. But all of that shit, it exactly mimics the stop the steal language. It exactly mimics the stop the steal rhetoric. It's the same people doing it. It's the exact Karl Rove, a chief architect of this sort of like destructionist policies that are called out in this story and in this book. Karl Rove is still an influential political actor on the right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, this also it makes us think about sort of where we're at today and where I was talking about diametrically opposed parties. We were talking, Tom and I, we're both older, so we recognize and understand that back when we were kids, and now I wasn't super politically active as a kid and I didn't know a lot, but it never really seemed to be this like back and forth, like everybody at each other's throats. And there felt like there was a way to communicate between parties that just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And you lay this at the feet of Newt Gingrich, who came in to fight against all of them and say, look, we need to basically say that they're bad people.
Yeah. Newt created the strategy of vilification and the departure from trying to reach the center.
Yeah.
And out loud and everything. Like
Yeah.
this isn't like this is his words out loud and everything. So, it used to be that both parties to some degree would say, all right, we've got our base and we'll count on them. And then we're all fighting for the heart of the center of America. We're all fighting for the vote of the independent. What Newt realized is that if you vilify the other side to a great enough degree, you can motivate more people in your base to show up than you can ever get the center to vote on, to convert to your side.
Sure.
So the radicalization of politics is a direct result of the strategic vilification of the other party. And that Gingrichian policy.
I like that. It sounds like fucking Cthulhian.
It does. It sounds
Gingrichian.
Yeah. Well, it's because his fucking heart is two sizes too small,
He stared into the abyss a long time.
Looked right back at him.
Fucking, it fucked him. Are you kidding me?
It's fucking fascinating, but it's also, I remember, we've said it on the show, and I believe it so strongly. George W. Bush is the worst president that America has ever seen, far worse than Donald Trump. Yeah. You can lay far more death.
You're right. So much
at the feet of W.
Yeah.
But really the big reason that W was so dangerous is that he brought this cadre of extremely smart and horrifyingly evil motherfuckers. The Rumsfelds, the Roves, the Cheneys, the Ashcrofts. Yeah. These are names that are infamous, and they continue to have this domino effect of evil into the world.
Yeah, and it ain't going away because they just keep on. They have infected a new generation of Republicans. Yeah, and they're even more awful than the previous group. The speech that Biden gave tonight very much addresses this idea that there are rational people on both sides.
Yeah, right.
And that what we need to do is reach out to everybody and be like, this is more important than party right now. This divisiveness that is essentially stalling everything we've ever tried to do is worse for our nation than, the other side getting a win or whatever it is that we're so afraid of. And, I recognize that, the problem is that on one side, there's been a push so strong on the Republican side to, white nationalism, to very extreme places that have threatened, people's existence. We're talking about, think of how different life is right now in our America versus maybe 10 years ago for a trans person.
Yeah.
Same for a person of color. You know what I mean? There's a serious push from white nationalists, and white nationalists they branch out into all different kinds of hate. So they hate all different kinds of people.
They're equal opportunity haters.
100%. Yeah, that's the only thing that
they're equal about.
That's the only place where they like affirmative action.
Right.
But they're genuinely terrible people, and they've taken a main stage on a lot of these platforms, and the right has been courting them for a long time. And so I understand that, this is exactly what the president was saying tonight. There's a MAGA group out there that are not trying to help the country, and they want to hurt people.
And they are sowing the seeds of discord in order to gain personal political power.
Yeah.
And financial power.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing.
That's what this boils down to for these fuckers, right?
And they don't care what they break in the way.
They don't. Because look at, a great example of the microcosm of the hell that we will experience if this continues to grow out of control is DeSantis's Florida.
Yeah.
DeSantis has turned Florida from, Florida man bites alligator to a genuinely frightening place to consider living at this point. The idea of raising kids in DeSantis's Florida, the book banning that is taking place all over the American red states is fucking crazy town. Remember when it would be banned book month and you'd go to the library, you'd walk by a bookstore, and they very proudly put the books that had been banned in the front window. Yeah. And the idea was books are representative of ideas, and in no free society should we do anything other than push back against the idea of banning books. We are now living in a country where school after school and public library after public library are being stripped of their books, being literal ideas are being pulled off the shelves because we are that fearful. We are that fearful of exposing people to challenge, exposing people to intellectual rigor, exposing people to ideas that we find frightening or different or scary. And I'm not talking, and then they couch it in this bullshit, grooming language, none of which is honest and none of which is true and all of which is incendiary, like turning America into Florida. Holy shit, Florida doesn't want to be Florida. Go to Florida. You go to Florida, the first thing you want to do is leave Florida.
The other thing too is DeSantis really does embody a lot of things that Trump embodied. And one of those things is attacking political rivals.
Yeah.
Look at what he did with Disney.
Right.
Look at going toe to toe with Disney. Like these are bad decisions that these people are making. Very publicly. I hope, who knows what's going to happen. DeSantis leaving Florida to become president. That sounds like
terrifying.
That sounds like season 3 of America is going to get canceled.
Yeah,
That's
man.
all.
For real.
All. Yeah.
Yeah.